Hello, everybody. Welcome to Leadership Cafe, where we aim to empower leaders everywhere with short, focused leadership tips for immediate application. I'm Erin. I'm a cognitive scientist and a learning program manager from Engine Learning and Talent Development Program, and I'll be hosting today's session. Here is what we got today. Rich Hua, the founder of Epic program at AWS and a frequent keynote speaker and the builder of the largest empathetic community on earth, will be joining us to share his insight on the Innovators Insight. And at the end of this session, we will wrap up with a quick Q&A session. So make sure to drop your questions in the chat. So without further ado, let's welcome Rich Hua. And Rich, the stage is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that warm introduction, Aaron. It's wonderful to be here with all of you on Leadership Cafe. And as was mentioned, my name is Rich Hua, and I have the privilege of serving as the worldwide head of Epic Leadership and the founder of EQ at Amazon. It is a community of over 70,000 people here at Amazon, and we decided to actually now share this with AWS customers all over the world to be able to help them also increase their innovation. So I'm going to be talking about Epic leadership and the innovator's mindset. And you may be wondering what Epic actually is all about. It is an effort to upskill leaders in emotional and social intelligence so they can lead with greater empathy, purpose, inspiration, and connection. And turns out there's a lot of benefits from a business and innovation perspective by having these kinds of leadership skills. So a little bit about Epic. We've actually engaged over 400,000 Amazonians internally and helped train and deliver keynotes. And that has gone all the way up to our most senior leaders on the S team. And this type of content has been integrated into dozens of training programs across Amazon. And then we decided a few years ago to start offering to customers because they could benefit from these skills also. You know, we're customer obsessed. And so since that time, we've engaged over 100,000 leaders across 10,000 organizations. And I sit within AWS. We've also been able to share this with ads customers and also Amazon Business. And so, you know, it's really pretty exciting. Finally, we have created cutting edge training systems using AI that will soon be available to you here at Amazon. So stay tuned for more news about that, where you can up level your skills in a very quantifiable way by taking some of these really scalable programs. So why am I talking about Epic? Why do we actually even have this program? Right? Dr. Linda Hill, a Harvard professor and also digital innovation expert, says, when we ask leaders what are the skills you need to lead digital transformation right now, the 5 skills they mentioned are adaptability, curiosity, creativity, comfort with ambiguity, and digital literacy. Now, you'll notice that digital literacy is on there. That's pretty obvious. And yet the first 4 are squarely in the realm of something beyond just IQ. Okay, these are actually social emotional skills that we need to be able to have if we want to succeed. Why is that? Because whatever you knew yesterday will likely not be relevant tomorrow. And so literacy is important, but you also need this adaptability and this ability to grow and change and also deal with an incredibly ambiguous environment, which is where we're living right now. And a little bit about me before I jump in. I was born in Taiwan, and I came to America when I was about 4 years old. And I had 3 things going against me. I didn't speak English. I was incredibly socially awkward, and I had attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so what I actually did was something completely opposite of EQ. I turned off all my emotions, and they weren't serving me. I had a lot of unpleasant ones. I said, forget it. And my goal was to become a robot. Well, turns out I figured I was actually pretty smart. And so I thought, let me become a genius robot as my life goal. Well, it worked out actually pretty well for a while. I got straight A's in high school. I actually got a perfect score on the SAT, which allowed me to get into every college I applied to. I went to UC Berkeley, studied electrical engineering, computer science, and my genius robot plan was going fantastically until I did one thing that kind of messed it all up. It was called I got married. And my wife did not care about the genius side, didn't like the robot side at all. She really wanted this thing called emotional human social connection, empathy, understanding. And so I realized, I'm missing a few things here. And then instead of going directly into engineering, I actually wound up becoming a missionary and an evangelist for about 23 years. And so I thought from both a personal and professional perspective, really should work on these skills. Well, I did. I took courses, I read books, I got a lot of mentoring, practiced a lot, failed a lot, but I improved. And over time, people started coming to me and saying, "Can you teach me these skills? I see that benefited you both personally and professionally. I'd like to learn also." And these are people all the way up to C-level executives. And so I started training programs to help other people learn. Well, after being an evangelist for many years, I pivoted back into the corporate world, brought these programs to Oracle, then brought them to AWS and Amazon about 8.5 years ago. And here we are, hundreds of thousands of people later. And it turns out no matter who you are, what level of leader you are, what your background is, what role you have, these skills can supercharge your success. And I will say that EQ has definitely been the secret to my success. I mean, my IQ is pretty high, but so is everyone else around me. So it's not the differentiator. The differentiator is actually all these EQ skills. Well, a couple other things. I do have two grown kids. They're both tax-paying adults and have their own careers, so I'm very proud of that. And they also have the give me the greatest compliment I could ever have as a dad. They actually laugh at my jokes. And finally, my other pastime besides EQ is Hapkido. It's a Korean martial art. Been doing it for about 25 years. And I like to say that I always try to use EQ in my interpersonal relationships. But if it doesn't work, I can always punch you in the face. And so the good news is I've actually never had to do that at work, and so I think we're safe there. All right, all jokes aside, let's jump in. I'm going to talk about the neuroscience of innovation, how to boost your personal innovation, and then as leaders, some things you can do to build a more innovative organization. So, in this short amount of time, I'll give you some very practical tips, and then hopefully this will inspire you to continue on your EQ journey. So, let me talk a little bit first about AI in the future of work, right? The fact is, Gen AI, we all know this, is dramatically accelerating the pace of technical automation. There's a bit of an eye chart from McKinsey, but the bottom line is everything that they predicted a couple of years ago that would happen in the 2050s to 70s, things like sensory perception, natural language understanding, logical reasoning, even social emotional reasoning, they thought it was going to be decades in the future. Well, obviously that all changed with the advent of Gen AI, and it's all now in the past. And so the rate of change is absolutely breathtaking, right? And what does that mean for the future of work and the future of leadership, right? By 2030, up to 30%, and some people say up to 50% of work activities will be automated. Whatever can be automated will be automated. So, what does that mean for us as leaders and as employees? Well, 92% of US executives agree that people skills are more important than ever. Empathy, active listening, interpersonal collaboration. And Microsoft does a work trends report every year, and they say that the three top skills needed for all types of leaders and employees are analytic judgment, no surprise, but the other two are emotional intelligence and flexibility. So the fact is, the human skills will become even more important as a differentiator in this world where all the automatable analytical stuff will no longer be differentiated by humans because technology will take over. And so this is a real, sort of picture of our future. Can you imagine this? Actually having an AI as an employee on your team. Now it seems like science fiction, but it's already happening, right? When you get on online web conferencing calls, or a lot of times, even in-person ones, you have AI there summarizing, recording, doing sentiment analysis, giving you sort of insights. This is already happening and will only continue to pervade our work environment in the days to come. So let's talk about innovation in this sort of context of dramatically shifting, rapidly changing environments that we're working in. What is the neuroscience behind it? Well, there's a great quote from Dr. Antonio Damasio, who says, "We are not thinking machines that feel, we are feeling machines that think." And from a neurobiological and evolutionary perspective, completely true, right? The emotional social centers of our brain actually developed first, and then the more logical, sort of strategic areas came later. That's why that part is called the neocortex. And it turns out that emotions influence us almost all the time, right? Dr. Mark Brackett at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence did research, and he found that emotions impact our ability to pay attention, our decision making, our performance and creativity, our relationships, and our physical and mental health. Now, which ones of these would you be willing to remove from your repertoire of skills during the workday? right? I mean, any of them? Probably not. I mean, they're all pretty important, right? Especially if you want to be a high performer, run a high performing team, be innovative, and do all the things that we need to do at Amazon. So I often get asked the question, well, okay, emotions impact me and all this stuff, but how often do I actually experience emotions? Well, I'd love to actually do a little survey. Put it in the chat. What do you think it is? The percentage of the waking day that we experience emotions as humans, right? Do you think it's 10% A, 25% B, 50% C, 75% D, or 90% or more E? Right. So while you're thinking about that, I'd love to see some of that come on in. So here's the big reveal. Which one did you select? The actual answer is E, 90% or more. It's actually kind of amazing. Now, it doesn't mean you actually recognize you're experiencing it, but as humans, that's just part of our neurobiology, right? I mean, you're experiencing an emotion right now. Hopefully, it's more curiosity, enthusiasm, inspiration than maybe boredom. But the fact is, it's happening all the time. And a key to innovation is knowing how to tap into these emotions in a healthy way. It's knowing how to have emotions work for you rather than against you. And that is actually emotional intelligence. And the reality is, we have to tap into all the aspects of our sort of human capabilities if we want to maximize our innovation, right? And so there's IQ, obvious cognitive capabilities. There's our personality, kind of how we approach life and ourselves, and then there's EQ. And what's interesting about EQ is it is a set of skills. So you can actually grow over time. You can develop them and become better at it. And I'm a living testament to that. I mean, no one would have accused me of having any EQ during the first 20 or so years of my life. But here I am having, helped over, 500,000 people develop those skills. So it's absolutely possible. One really fascinating thing about emotion skills is that they directly are actually embedded into the practice of our leadership principles. Now, some people actually didn't even realize it until I pointed it out. Obviously, at Amazon, innovation is guided and driven by our LPs. But if you look at the verbiage of some of these LPs, it's kind of fascinating from an emotional perspective. Earn trust, listen attentively, speak candidly, treat others respectfully, be vocally self critical, even if it's awkward or embarrassing, right? You look at have backbone, disagree, and commit. You respectfully challenge, even if it's uncomfortable, exhausting. You have to be tenacious, right? Despite setbacks, you rise to the occasion, right? And then strive to be your best employer, lead with empathy, have fun at work, make it easy for others to have fun. I mean, how could you put any of these into practice without emotion skills? Well, you can't. You can't just use IQ to actually embody these. You must pair the IQ with the EQ, and then you can actually embody many of our LPs, if not all of them, in a more effective way. So, why is self management so difficult sometimes? If you look at this picture, I think it gives you a great, a great sort of explanation. I mean, when you're stressed out, it is really hard to manage yourself, right? Have you ever looked in the mirror and seen this animal looking back at you? Maybe it was this week, right? I've seen this plenty of times. And have you ever done something that you thought, wow, that was really dumb? Or said something you thought, wow, I wish I could pull that back into my mouth even as I'm talking? Well, that's because of stress. And the reality is, managing our stress is one of the keys, and the stressful emotions that come from it is one of the keys to innovation and high performance. Yerkes and Dodson did this fascinating study a while back, and they found that you actually have an optimum amount of stress. If it's too low, you wind up being bored and tired, and you look kind of like this. But if it's too high, you are restless and whacked out, and you look kind of like this, right? And so what you want to do is be in that middle zone where you're focused, you're engaged, you're creative, you're thinking clearly, and you look a bit more like this. And what Daniel Goleman, who's a leader in the field of emotional intelligence research and best-selling author, he calls this middle zone maximum cognitive efficiency, right? And so it's not about how much IQ you have. It's about how efficiently you can use that IQ. It's not the maximum horsepower, is what you can actually get out of that automobile, in real life. That's what EQ is about. And so it's really fascinating. I go around the world and I talk to leaders all the time about how to actually reduce and manage the stress. in their life because I haven't found many people who find that they want more stress. And so I'm going to give you some techniques on how to manage those sort of cognitive and emotional overloads that can happen because that is a key to innovation. Okay, so how do you boost your personal innovation? There's some things that you can actually do immediately that can make a difference. And one of the things certainly that I talked about was regulating the stress response because generally it can be too high. Like, I like to ask people, hey, when was the last time you woke up in the morning and you said, I really hope there's more stress at work today because yesterday was just not stressful enough. Ever had that experience? Probably not, right? And so, sort of down regulating and diminishing and managing better high stress levels really is a key to innovation. So, there are three things you can do right away that can help you regulate your stress response better. The first is cultivate positivity. Okay, I say this because the fact is we tend to have a negativity bias, which means we remember and we notice in the short term negative things more easily than positive ones, right? I mean, just look at the news. I mean, is really everything bad? Well, not necessarily, but the media knows that you will have a higher propensity to click on something negative than something positive. And so the key to high performance and being able to modulate our stress is to have a healthy ratio of positivity to negativity. And different researchers say it's like a 3-to-1 ratio. Others say it's a different one. But the point is to have more positivity in your life in general than negativity. And that kind of perspective has actually been found to improve performance, uh, augment creativity, cause you to be better at customer service. We call that customer obsession, and even increases your lifespan. Right? And the Navy SEALs in the U.S. actually call this attention control, meaning when there's a whole lot of negativity around you and your life is at risk and everything's going to crap, focus on the positive things. What can you actually do to solve the problem? What are the opportunities? What can actually be sort of taken advantage of so you can get you and your colleagues out alive and finish the mission, right? And so, if you consider yourself a pretty positive person, then you may think, "Oh, I'm in good shape." But if you're not so positive, what can you do? Well, the reality is, we all get into situations where we could use some more positivity. One of the most powerful things we can do is gratitude. And I have this technique I call the 3 by 3. And essentially, it means writing down three things you're grateful for every day for 3 weeks. And just by doing that simple thing, you rewire your brain to be more positive. You can also use this as a leader at the beginning of team meetings. A lot of people do this across Amazon. You could also just put something in your calendar. Hey, I'm going to send out gratitudes and emails and awesome awards or whatever tech, sort of system you use to people on Friday afternoons at 2 o'clock, just to be able to express it. Those are great ways to improve positivity. The second one is connecting with friends. Ask yourself, would you say you have three good friends at work? Well, if you can say yes, then you're ahead of the curve. But if not, then I highly encourage it. Here's why. When you talk to somebody who you consider a friendly, you actually reduce the cortisol levels in your body within a matter of just a few minutes. And so it's really powerful that if you want to reduce stress, talking to people that again, consider some kind of a friend really does make a difference. And one research found that if you have three good friends at work, you have a 96% greater chance of being happy with your life. Not with work, with life. And that's because you'll wind up actually seeing your friends a lot because we are at work a lot. And the final one is mindful breathing. And this is a technique that I've taught all across Amazon. It's quite profound because, again, you can do it anytime before a meeting, during a meeting, right when you wake up in the morning. And the one that I like to sort of share is pretty simple. It's called box breathing. It's used by the Navy SEALs to manage when things are really, really challenging and high stress. And it basically means you breathe in for a 4 count, you hold it for a 4 count, you breathe out for a 4 count, and you hold it out for a 4 count. And just by doing that for a few cycles, you actually downregulate intense emotions like anger or fear, and you decrease your blood pressure and your heart rate. So don't take my word for it. Okay, I know you're all virtual, so I can't see you, but I want to ask you to do it with me just for 1 minute. Okay, if you don't like it, don't ever do it again, but you may actually find it to be pretty useful. So I'm going to ask you to go and sit in your chair, straight but relaxed. Put your arms, wherever they feel comfortable. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Okay, if you're in a public space, you're a little afraid of, what might happen around you. You don't have to, but if you can, close your eyes, get the distractions out. Now let's do the box press. Ready? In through the nose. 1, 2, three, four. Hold it. One, two, three, four. Out through the mouth. One, two, three, four. Hold it out. One, two, three, four. Into the nose. One, two, three, four. Hold it. One, two, three, four. Out to the mouth. One, two, three, four. Hold it out. One, two, three, four. Into the nose. One, two, three, four. Hold it. One, two, three, four. Out to the mouth. One, two, three, four. Hold it out. One, two, three. And last one. Into the nose. One, two, three, four. Hold it. One, two, three, four. Out to the mouth. One, two, three, four. Hold it out. One, two, three, and four. Okay, open your eyes. How did that feel? I'd love to see in the chat how that was for you. And by the way, I've actually done this in my team, done this with hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And we've seen some really positive benefits to people who've leveraged it. I actually have a friend who leads enterprise sales for an entire country for Amazon. And he said, you know, Rich, I used to take aspirins multiple times a month because I get these tension headaches from stress. I learned this technique and I haven't taken an aspirin in a year and a half. Can really make a difference. All right, I'm going to round it out with how to build an innovative organization. And, it's fascinating because we think a lot about ways to do it, right? And here are 5 things that can improve innovation and sustain high performance. Really smart people, right combo of skills, years of experience, charismatic leadership, and high team EQ. They're all important. Which one do you think is the most important? All right, pick one of those, A through E. Well, again, the big reveal, the answer is in fact E. MIT did some research where they try to understand what influences collective intelligence. That means the ability of a team to actually solve complex problems and their sort of smartness. And you know what they found? Incredibly surprising. It had nothing to do with IQ. It wasn't the average IQ, it wasn't the highest IQ. What it did have to do with was EQ. It was based on 3 factors: the average social sensitivity of the members of the group, in other words, their ability to have empathy, the extent to which the group was not dominated by a few people, but conversational turn taking, and then finally the percentage of women in the group. And that was because the women tended to have higher social sensitivity. Incredible. Have you ever seen a really smart group of people get nothing done because of ego or turf, protection, or unwillingness to admit mistakes? I think we've all seen that. And so when you have IQ and you can't deploy it correctly in a collaborative way, you're not going to get high IQ on a team. And of course, Amy Edmondson popularized this term years ago of psychological safety. And that is where people can actually speak up. They can talk about things. They can say, I made a mistake, or I need help, or I don't know something, or I have a different point of view. That when you can actually have diverse perspectives because people actually can speak up, that's when you have higher collective intelligence. And I love this chart from Adam Grant. I was a Wharton professor. He says, here's how you know if you have psychological safety. If you have it, you have the things on the left. When you don't have it, you have the things on the right. And so ask yourself, on your team, the team that you're a part of and or the team you lead, where do you more often reside? Because that will determine how effective you are at being able to have collective intelligence. As you can see here, when you have it, mistakes are opportunities to learn. When you don't, they're threats, right? You're willing to take risks and fail versus only willing to rock the boat. Speak your mind in meetings versus keep your ideas to yourself. Openly share your struggles versus only tout your strengths, or trust each other versus fear them. Finally, you stick your neck out when you have it, and you have it chopped off when you don't. And Edmondson calls the left side the fearless organization, and the right side the anxious organization. So creating a fearless organization is so key to being able to have high performing and innovative teams. And we can all do something about that as leaders. Now, one thing that people may ask is, well, what about high expectations? Does that mean you have low expectations and everyone can just basically do what they want? No, absolutely not. Okay, psychological safety is one part of the equation, one dimension, one axis, if you will, and expectations is the other axis. Now, I think we can agree at Amazon that there's no place where there's low expectations, so we can get rid of that whole left side. And so we have a choice of either having high expectations and low psychological safety, which people feel like they're anxious, or we have high expectations and high psychological safety in which people feel they have peak performance. So, of course, what we're all looking for as leaders is to create teams that have that, right? So, I'm going to take some questions, but before I do that, I did want to give you 4 specific things you can do: create more psychological safety and higher team EQ, acknowledge your own fallibility, right? When leaders are willing to say, hey, I made a mistake, here's what I learned, be vocally self-critical, it certainly opens the door for everyone else. Model curiosity, ask a lot of questions. We call that learn and be curious, right? Frame the work as a learning problem, not an execution problem, especially if you're doing something really new, novel, sort of area that you're in. We call that, of course, a day one mentality. And finally, promote conversational turn taking. That can be also known as seeking diverse perspectives. All right, so I'm going to see if there's any questions that are coming into the chat. If you haven't put one in there, please do. And as I wait for that, I also want to give you some resources you can use to continue your EQ journey going forward. This is only the beginning, not the end. So I hope that this inspires you to continue working on these skills. It can only help you be a more effective leader. All right, I see Aaron on. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Rich. We have a question here. If you were to given the top 3 ingredients into your effective leadership recipe, what would they be and why?
Yeah. So I would say one, be more self-aware. Like if you really want to be more effective, you need to understand how you're coming across and how people are perceiving you. And so working on that self-awareness and just sort of asking, hey, how am I coming across? And asking for some advice from others to give you some, thoughts. I think that's actually a big part of it. The second is actually also just understanding how to be calm. I gave you the idea of the breathing. It's so fundamental. And we run around most of the day like headless chickens. And so if we just actually take a few minutes a day and really sort of go, okay, let me make sure I'm calm, I'm centered, I have maximum cognitive efficiency, it can really make a big difference. And then the third one I'd say is understand people, right? I mean, we're so busy and we're running around all the time and we've got so much to do. We're never going to get everything done. And so sometimes what we can do as leaders is remove the human element and we just get right down to business. But connecting and showing empathy is actually like the grease that makes all the gears turn faster. And so a very simple thing is at the beginning of meetings, just check in with people. It can only maybe even just be for 2 or 3 minutes. Anybody got anything exciting they want to share? Anything they're really proud of from last week? Brene Brown does this thing where she goes, hey, just put 2 emotions in the chat, just kind of how you're feeling right now. Just showing I'm interested and I care can really make a big difference. And you know what? Taking 28 minutes to do the work with 2 minutes of that at the beginning, you'll be more effective in your 28 minutes. So those are things I'd recommend.
So self-awareness, stay calm, and be understanding to other people. It's very helpful tips. And that brings us to the end of this session today. Thank you all for participating in this community. And on behalf of our customers who may benefit from this session, a special thank you for Rich Hua. Thank you for sharing your time and expertise to inspire us to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more at the engine. And for next session in March, we'll be having Alicia Vandenberg to share the insight how to write effective promo doc. So be sure to RSVP into our Leadership Cafe on Gather. And if you or someone you know would love to speak at a future session, we'd love to hear from you. And details has been linked in the event description there. So have a fantastic day, everybody. And we'll see you next time at Leadership Cafe. Thank you all.
Thanks for watching.